All right, folks. So today we are going to talk about slowing down. And this is one of the initial habits that we focus on with clients in the program. We don't talk about counting calories or any kind of macros or any of that stuff before we actually go through this simple habit of slowing down. So, Brad, do you want to maybe talk about why we implement this habit? What are the benefits and why people should kind of look at this before they try and start, going into the deeper weeds of nutrition?
Well, we do it that was me speaking slowly. I don't know if the effect worked.
I
Trying
thought it
to
was, yeah.
yeah, I mean it's just eating very quickly. Um, there's a few things to unpack there. One is you don't really gauge how full you are. So if you wolf everything down, you don't really have a chance to take stock of your hunger levels or your satiation levels. Um, and the other thing is like it really is an opportunity to bring some mindfulness to, and it's a bandied about word, but mindfulness to something as frequent and as eating. So if you can sit down for your evening meal, or ideally all meals, and I think a lot of people who work where you go to work from their workplaces, lunch is a classic example where you kind of just, you don't have much time. You either eat at your desk and really kind of get it out the way so you can get back to working, or rush out, find something, eat on the move, maybe even while walking. And it's just this movement, this food that's kind of gone in, and you haven't even really thought about it. It hasn't even registered. So it's a powerful habit to form by just slowing things down when it comes to your food intake.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like, we'll just say awareness instead of mindfulness, I think, because yeah, mindfulness is a bit like it doesn't really mean anything anymore. But like you said, I think it's the research shows that people they enjoy food less the more distracted they are and the quicker that they eat. So for me personally, that's something I need to keep working on this indefinitely, because it's a lot easier for me to eat listening to something or watching something than to just eat, and focus on what I'm eating. And then anytime I do eat undistracted, I enjoy my food a lot more. I don't overeat, which is something I can do very, very easily. And this is like the fundamental habit that we get people to work on, because if you are rushing your food, chances are you're rushing everything else in your life. And this is something I see myself. If I can slow down more, everything just gets easier. I don't feel as overwhelmed or stressed. So we start teaching clients this once a day. We get them to focus on like 5 to 7 times a week. So on average, one meal a day. Generally, we recommend dinner because that's generally when they're going to be eating with other people, or it's when they're going to be having uh the least amount of interruptions. Like mornings can be rushed. Lunch, as Brad said, you can be in the middle of the work and you don't really have much time. So we recommend them starting to slow down at dinner time. Now, we also teach them some little techniques and steps that they can focus on to help them to slow down. Do you want to go through a few tips for people? Because I find just sometimes just, eat slower. You're like, oh man, like I can't remember what happened there, but like it's gone again and it's only 60 seconds have passed. Like I just blacked out. So
Yeah.
for someone, and I'm very much referring to myself there. So for someone who wants to slow down their meals, what would be some tactics, some tips that you can recommend for them to just, practice while they're eating that's going to slow down their meal?
Okay. Well, firstly, I just say also I'm like kind of, this is a very difficult thing for me to do, and I think a lot of people struggle with this, and I actually learned this from Connor. So he's asking, well, what tips do you have? I say, well, a tip that you actually taught me, which is something as simple as something as simple in theory, not so much in practice, as putting your fork down between, or your spoon between bites. So you're sitting down, for dinner with, you know, on your own or with your family or whoever it may be, and you take a bite and you put your fork down. And the act of putting the fork down makes you think, oh right, yeah, I'm trying to be slow. So you chew your food more because the fork's not in your hand. And that simple act of placing the fork down really kind of brings the message home. Oh, this is what I'm doing. So it's a skill that's simple in theory, and it's practicable anywhere, which makes it really helpful. So you could be out in a restaurant, you could be at home, you could be traveling. Just a simple act of putting the fork down can really slow things down for you. But
Yeah,
as I say,
totally.
it's not easy. It's not easy to do it.
Simple,
If
simple, but
yeah,
not easy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then, yeah, so you can put your fork down between bites, chew your food 10, 20 times, and then take a big deep breath in, put your utensil down, pick it back up, start again. Also, using a teaspoon is a good one because you're just
Yeah,
going to eat
well,
less.
you said also using chopsticks. That's a good one. If you don't
Yeah.
ordinarily use chopsticks, of course. If you're
Yeah, yeah,
someone who
exactly.
usually does, then it might not be so effective.
Yeah. So anything you just want to try and change the environment to slow yourself down, these can be good options. And then again, the obvious one is going to be number one is screens. So looking at screens, uh, try and not do that because you're going to be distracted. And then if you find that difficult, you can still like listen to something, like listen to a podcast, but then eventually you're trying to do it completely undistracted. So no screen or anything like that. And just a really important thing is like if you're used to eating all your meals on the go, like you're going out to your car, eating your whatever, your breakfast, and then you're eating at your desk, and then you're eating in front of the TV at night, and you're just never ever present with your food. Just look at it like a skill. So just imagine like you're playing the guitar and you're practicing, and it's all sounds awful at the start, right? Like you're just bad at it. So you want to think about these skills the same way, that like you're gonna sound like you don't know how to play the instrument at the start, but then with practice and practice and practice every day or multiple times a week, it sounds better. So just thinking about it like that is going to be a much easier way as well to be okay with not being good at this stuff at the start. Because if you've let's just say you're 40 now, you're in a house where everyone ate really fast as a child. So now your entire life, and now you're in a house with your own family now where you all eat really fast. You never have thought about this. So this is decades of practice of something that you're doing. So it's going to take you a lot of time and effort to change this habit, and it's going to have to take a lot of awareness around it on a weekly basis. So I think that's the biggest thing. Just have it written down somewhere that it reminds you. Also having scheduled meal times can be really good. So like, okay, we have dinner at 6 p.m. In the evening versus like, oh, we just get home and we just, we eat whatever and we just do it there. So like that can be helpful as well. Just having more of a routine, I think, is a very important thing as well. If you can have set meal times, it's going to make things a lot easier for you also.
How do you think people can make a shift from, so, a lot of people tend to think, oh, you kind of got to get through your meal. It's just one more rush thing. You finish it, let's finish eating so we can clean up, so we can sit down and finally relax. How do you kind of bring the eating the meal into the relaxation? Like, how can we work on that?
Yeah, this is a really good one. I actually heard Jordan Peterson talking about this. It was a very good point. He was saying like if you can get your meal, you're going to be spending like 8% of your dinners or something. So if you can get that right and a daily exercise routine correct, that's going to solve a lot of your long-term problems. So he was like, if you can build a 10-minute walk into your day and an evening meal, like if you've got a family, an evening meal with loved ones where you just connect, like that's going to literally have a huge impact over the long term. But it's a really simple thing, insignificant actually if you think about it in the present, but over like years it's actually huge. So I would be saying to look at that meal as like something that's part of your kind of wind down. you know, in the evening. Because I think a lot of times for me anyway, I want to finish it so I can watch a show or something like that. And I rarely feel relaxed watching a show. I actually feel much more relaxed when I'm just, I don't have any distractions. It's I always think about this. I'm like, why don't I give myself more time without any noise? Because I always feel better after I give myself time without noise. I don't feel good if I jam like 4 hours of Netflix into my brain. Yeah, I don't feel relaxed. But
Yeah,
if I read a book, like one input, or like I have a slow meal, I feel great. So
yeah.
I think it's just constantly reminding yourself as well, for me anyway. What about yourself?
Well, when I was in university, I studied philosophy, which, made me not that philosophical, but made me think that by just lying on the floor, looking at the ceiling in a kind of free from external stimuli, that I was philosophizing. And I don't know necessarily that I was doing that, but it was easy for me to spend time when I was younger, just not doing anything. Uh, and there were real benefits of mental clarity where, struggle to find those moments these days, because as you say, it's like even if you're not doing something like watching a show or a film, you are trying to read something, or everything feels like it needs to be productive,
Mm.
where the absence of action can in itself be productive, but it's not something we associate with it. So I guess like food whilst we're eating is an act, but it's quite um yeah, it's not like you're working towards an obvious end goal, which is I think maybe the thing. So I don't know, to try and reframe what it is to have, like what exactly you're trying to achieve with things is maybe a, a kind of overarching framework to think within.
Yeah, and also I can't remember what the guy's name was, but he was talking about it on a podcast, which is like, just start practicing being a little bit bored. So what I do now is I go for walks, or when I'm walking, I don't listen to something. Or I'll be like, okay, I won't listen to something for like 5 minutes. And then I'll listen to, because it's so for me, I'm just like, I love just listening to podcasts, but also then I find there's no downtime. It's like 24/7 shoving stuff into my ear. So giving myself, okay, I'm going to go for a walk. Like we were talking about this a few months back or a few weeks ago about just going for a morning walk and not getting on my phone for the first hour. It's like you've slept for an extra 2 days. Like it's wild, So, or doing like a full day with no computer and no screens. If you feel tired and kind of burnt out, do an entire screen-free day on Saturday or Sunday, and I guarantee you'll feel 1,000 times better, like 100%. But the thing is, will you be able to do it? No TV, no phone, nothing, no distractions. And it's kind of like what you're saying. It's something I did in my 20s a lot. I remember I was living in Thailand. I did a Vipassana retreat, and then I used to do like a day of silence. Just like wouldn't talk. This is with my girlfriend at the time, and we would just not talk for the entire day, and we would just, because it was we were doing it from the silent retreat, so we got ideas about doing it. So like once a month or maybe once every 2 months, we would just not talk and not have any inputs, nothing, and just do meditation. And I was like, the thought of doing that now is just like so very, very challenging. So yeah, I think you don't have to go to that extreme and be like a weirdo like I was, but you can start by giving yourself more space. And that might be like, okay, I'm going to go for 5 minutes, nothing plugged into my ears, and then after that it's fine. And it's interesting as well talking to people who are at different ages, like people over 50, they're, or people over 60. I'll always see people just sitting and just doing nothing. But everyone like under 40 is always plugged in to their technology, which I think is super fascinating, because like I think just everyone in our generation is just completely addicted to tech.
Although I have seen in an older demographic, you know, that's I assume it's everywhere, but back in the day of landlines, like I grew up where the people, my parents, my grandparents, my friends' parents, if the phone rang, you answered it. It didn't matter if you were in the middle of dinner or, you were running through the door, you had to answer this phone. And I think I see it in an older demographic with mobile phones. That mindset still exists. So as soon if you get a ping on your phone, you've got to check it. You've got to check because
Mm.
it could be something important. When the phone used to ring, it was invariably you usually wanted to hear it. With someone, a family member or a friend, or it was important, like someone had ended up in hospital or something like that. And then now it's just like it's something that someone stole your email
That's it.
address, and it's like a discount for a grocery store. Like, but you keep checking it,
That's so true. Yeah. Awesome, man. I need to jump off, mate. But yeah, really good chat today. And we'll chat next week. Enjoy your weekend as well, bro.
Thank you. You
Enjoy
too.
your time off.
Happy
Good man.
dancing.
Cheers, mate. Take care. Bye bye.
See ya.